The Titans have made a pair of big moves, Justin, signing guard Kevin Zeitler to a one-year deal, also trading away linebacker Kenneth Murray. What does this mean for the Titans? We're going to break it down right now. This is the Music City Audible, another emergency podcast. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast, our third emergency episode of the week. So if you're keeping score at home, this one definitely qualifies. The Titans have made a major signing solidifying their offensive line with former Lions guard Kevin Zeitler on a one-year, $9 million contract. The Titans also trade away presumably starting linebacker, last year's starting linebacker Kenneth Murray to the Cowboys. The Titans get back a 6th-round pick. They send a 7th-round pick. We'll get to that in a second. Let's start with Kevin Zeitler. Justin, what does this mean as far as pass protection and the setup that Cam Ward will be walking into when the Titans inevitably pick him with the first overall pick?
Well, this is a big-time upgrade at right guard for the Titans. Now, it's obviously a Band-Aid, maybe even a one-year solution. He's 35, so he's not going to be here for a very long time. But he was outstanding for the Detroit Lions last year. Only gave up a couple sacks. I think it was 18 total pressures in pass protection the whole year. Played more than 1,000 snaps at his age for a NFC, right now, what's an annual contender in the Detroit Lions, a Super Bowl contender, and probably the best offensive line in the NFL. If it's not one, it's number 2, in my opinion. It's that close. And he was a big part of that. So he comes here, has not shown any signs of decline in his play whatsoever. I guess the test will be, to a degree, is, another year of wear and tear on his aging body and an offensive line around him that's not as good as what he had in Detroit. But all of a sudden, looks pretty half decent, right? Like, he's going to be playing next to J.C. Latham at right tackle. That's really exciting for both of them. It'll be good for Lloyd Cushenberry to have, Kevin next to him as he gets back from a major injury. And then on the left side, of course, you've got Dan Moore and Peter Skoronski. So I said it during the season a lot when we were frustrated with the O-line. I said on here, they are pretty close to completing this transformation. In my opinion, they have now done that, at least for the 2025 season. You know exactly what you're starting from left tackle to right tackle, and all of them should at least be league average to above league average players. It's tough to spot the weakness on this offensive line, or the one, glaring weakness, and that's a really good problem to have. A lot of people say your O-line is only as good as your worst player. And I don't know who the worst player is. It might be Lloyd Cushenberry, based on the injury that he had. It might be Dan Moore over. I don't think the gap is as big as you think it is, probably.
It's Dan Moore.
Cushenberry wasn't great last. He didn't hit the ground running, in all honesty, and now he's got a serious injury to come back from. So it'll be one of those two players that's probably their worst lineman. But none of them are going to be Nicholas Petit-Frere bad, right? At least we certainly, that would shock us if they were. So This is a good quality move for 2025. It upgrades the offensive line, I think, in a major way. It's a good situation for whoever that starting quarterback is next year, especially if that guy's a rookie.
Yes. I mean, Kevin Zeitler was the 6th highest rated guard according to Pro Football Focus last year, PFF, grain of salt, all that. But that's a great thing. I think Dan Moore, look, I get what you're saying about Lloyd Cushenberry, and we'll see if he's even really ready to be the starter in week 1. Titans also did add a depth piece to the offensive line that I think is a pretty major, I mean, not major, but it's a guy that they see playing all 5 positions. Blake Hance, as you tweeted, has played under Bill Callahan on 2 different teams already in his career. Titans add him. He's going to be a swing guy across the board, primarily probably the swing tackle. But if they need somebody to step in at guard, he's played all 5 center positions except center. So if Lloyd Cushenberry does miss the first month or however long of the season, we'll see. Like, we have no real indication that he will or won't miss time. So you'd like to think the Titans will be rolling out their starting lineup in week 1 from left tackle to right tackle. Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle, Peter Skoronski at left guard, Lloyd Cushenberry at center, now Kevin Zeitler at right guard, and J.C. Latham at right tackle. If all those guys play up to their ability, their maximum ceiling, there is no weakness. Now, we've seen Dan Moore's play be up and down at the times throughout his Steelers career. You just mentioned some Cushenberry struggles. J.C. Latham definitely tailed off towards the end of the year, maybe hit a bit of a rookie wall. Even Peter Skoronski, I don't know if he's lived up to the 11th overall pick, but he's a solid starting guard in this league. And the Titans now have a 5-man group that, as you said, can protect whoever the quarterback ends up being. And the reason that I made the joke that it's going to be Cam Ward, I keep saying this. Like, this is probably the third podcast in a row I've said the smoke continues to billow about the Titans liking Cam Ward. Todd McShay, major draft analyst, formerly of ESPN, now off on, I think, with The Ringer or on his own or somewhere. He's not with ESPN anymore. But he tweeted right after this signing was announced, beefing up the line for Cam Ward. I mean, he tweeted that. He tweeted it. Gearing up to protect Cam Ward was his word for word verbatim tweet. I mean, Todd McShay's not just tweeting this for no reason. So anyway, I don't want to, like, that's not the point of this podcast. I'm not trying to jump to any major conclusions, but it does seem to be getting more and more likely with every move the Titans make that they are indeed gearing up to protect Cam Ward.
Yeah, I don't mean to switch topics, but I want to get this off before I forget it. The Kevin Zeitler signing to me reminds me a little bit of the Xavier Woods one, better than that, but to the degree where they don't have to draft a right guard anymore this year. It's not going to be a long-term solution, just like Xavier Woods is not a long-term solution at safety. But it puts you in a better situation where you don't have to force a draft pick because you need a guy right now. Maybe they still draft a guard at some point, a guy that they could see starting for them down the road, but there's going to be no competition, right? You're not in trouble at right guard. Kevin Zeitler is your starting guard in 2025. And if he continues playing the way he has been, he's going to be a damn good one.
Exactly. So the Titans may look to add sort of a guy they can develop maybe on day 3 of the draft to be the heir apparent to Kevin Zeitler. They may push this position down to next year and worry about it then. They have options and flexibility now, which is, as we've been talking about, the whole point of free agency is to give you flexibility, especially entering the draft. Obviously, the Titans still have major needs. Quarterback, first in among them. Cam Ward would solve that immediately, assuming that he's not terrible. Edge. They still need 2 edge guys. So free agency is not over. In fact, free agency officially began about 2 hours ago as of this recording. So yeah, there was pre-free agency legal tampering where a lot of the major names went off the board, especially at edge position, but there's still some guys, there's plenty of guys out there. All the guys that we talked about this morning when we did our free agency update pod, the 3 guys we named, Azeez Ojulari, Zadarius Smith, Charles Omenihu, all those guys are still out there. And it would be really nice if the Titans were to go sign 2 of them, maybe. I don't know. So we'll see if that happens. But in other news, the Titans have traded former starting linebacker Kenneth Murray to the Cowboys. And now look, I think there's 2 ways to view this. Number one, this was a bit of a surprising trade to me. I mean, this came out of absolutely nowhere. We've been talking about how Callahan had recently told Jim Wyatt that we need to find a linebacker to start next to Kenneth Murray. They found Cody Barton. We assumed Cody Barton and Kenneth Murray were going to be the starting linebacker. So that's the surprising part of it. The unsurprising part of it is Cody Barton is a better version of Kenneth Murray. They're both early down thumpers who struggle a bit in coverage. Cody Barton is better in coverage than Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray probably a better blitzer than Cody Barton, but that's like at the bottom of the list of what you need in a starting inside linebacker is blitzing ability. So Titans ship off Kenneth Murray, continue to erase some of the moves that Rand Carthon made in his short time as the general manager. And like I said, they get back a 6th round pick. They send a 7th round pick. So it's a late round pick swap. The Titans now have 2 picks in the 4th round, 2 picks in the 5th round, and 2 picks in the 6th round. And we've talked a lot about how this team wants to trade back to acquire more draft capital and especially to acquire a 3rd round pick. Well, the other side of that is you now have 2 picks in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. If you really need a 3rd round pick, and you don't want to move back from 1 because you like Cam Ward, and you don't want to move back from 35 because there's an edge or a receiver that you really like there, well, maybe you can package some of these day 3 picks to come back up into the 3rd. I don't know that that's the direction this team wants to go. I mean, they want more picks, not less. But that, again, flexibility, the options are on the table for them, but they have created what seems to be a hole at the linebacker position because now the team's down to 1 starter there.
Yeah, I mean, this move to me wasn't about the compensation that they're getting back. It's more about creating, a bit more financial flexibility and moving on from what this regime probably, or we can say definitely considers a mistake by the previous regime, right? Like trading Kenneth Murray. I mean, unless the Titans are eating a portion of the salary, I haven't seen yet if they are or aren't. But according to the, over the cap, they're saving nearly $8 million by making this trade. And the dead cap charge is very little. It's just a little over $2 million. So this is an addition by subtraction, in my opinion. Kenneth Murray was not very good last year. Opposing quarterbacks had a passer rating of 131 when targeting him. He allowed 85% of the targets thrown his way to be completed passes, and he allowed 6 touchdowns in coverage. This was Not, he had the respect of his teammates and the coaching staff, over 100 tackles, played through some injuries, was a defensive captain. Don't get me wrong. There were things they liked about Kenneth Murray, and they really appreciated his professional approach. But the on-field results were just average to below average at best. So this is the new regime coming in, moving on from him. Again, mass exodus at linebacker. They've now moved on from him, Jack Gibbons, Chance Campbell, and Luke Gifford at linebacker. As you said, they've probably got another hole there. Is that something they're going to fill through the draft, free agency? We'll see. If it's a position they're not super worried about, they could hold an in-house competition between Otis Reese, Cedric Gray, and James Williams. They've got a couple of young guys there that they've got a little bit of investment in. The previous regime did not draft Gray and Williams, and those guys didn't do anything as rookies. But worth noting, this is the regime that just decided to retain Otis Reese, right? They decided to tender him and keep him when they didn't do that for like any of their other players, essentially, almost, right? That they tendered a couple of them, but they let more of them go. They tendered Andrew Rupsich and I think Mike Brown, Daryl Baker, but they said goodbye to a bunch of them, right? TK McClendon, Julius Chestnut, Jack Gibbons, Ryan Stonehouse. List goes on and on. So they did keep Otis Reese. Maybe that means something. I'd say there's a hole there, but honestly, I like Otis Reese. I've always have. I like Cedric Gray coming out. Yeah, they might need something there, but I'm so much more worried about quarterback and even still interior line depth, to be honest. I'd like to have something better than Blake Hance behind Lloyd Cushenberry, especially coming off that injury. Remember, Daniel Brunskill, Corey Levin, unrestricted free agents, not in those swing roles anymore. And of course, wide receiver and edge, they need 2 players apiece at those positions. So not super worried about the linebacker spot for now. To me, this one makes sense. Addition by subtraction. I was surprised when, remember, Brian Callahan, you made the comment that they were going to keep him. I always thought he was a cap casualty, was a little, taken aback that wasn't in the plans initially. This makes sense now. They were working on a trade. They deal him to Dallas.
Yeah, so he's out the door, and like we said, the Titans get the draft compensation. You did mention, or I didn't say it a few minutes ago when we were talking about remaining needs. Wide receiver obviously is a huge one. You just mentioned it. Any chance, Justin, you got this question on Twitter, I saw, any chance the Titans go after Cooper Kupp, who has been released?
I would be like, look, they might have some interest in him. I don't know how to answer it, to be honest, because I see it both ways. Like, sure, he'd help them a ton. They got money to offer. But I imagine he's going to have suitors he's more interested in, right? Like Green Bay's a competitor. Seattle's a competitor. He would go to a similar offense there with Clint Kubiak calling the shots. Again, Seattle might be fun in the NFC West there. With Green Bay, it's Matt LaFleur. So again, an extension of both of them, essentially, Seattle and Green Bay, an extension of the Sean McVay coaching tree. So they're good scheme fits. They've got money to pay them. They're playoff contenders. We thought Seattle was rebuilding. Not really after they bring in Sam Darnold. They're still a playoff contender, in my opinion. They added DeMarcus Lawrence at the end as well. They've got the good roster there in Seattle. So I could see the Titans having interest. I could see them not having interest. What I can't see is Cooper Kupp having a lot of interest in coming to Tennessee, unless the money is just so much more than he gets elsewhere.
That's the answer. You have to pay him more than the other teams are willing to pay him and see if that's what means the most. He has a Super Bowl ring. Does he want to chase another win, or does he want to chase a bag in the final stages of his career? That's obviously the big question. There are other receivers. Amari Cooper would be an interesting guy. Keenan Allen, route running technician, who's definitely lost a step at his age now. Rondale Moore is a guy that could add speed to the offense, even if he wouldn't add.
Is still out there, I think.
Stephon Diggs is still out there.
I'd be more interested in, you said, like Rondale Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus. I mean, I don't want to say re-signing. I almost rather re-sign Tyler Boyd, to be honest, than go get Diggs or to go get Cooper. Like, I think those guys are so washed, and they come with higher expectations. Tyler Boyd's a little washed as well, but at least he's a security blanket in the slot. Like, I'm so out on like Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper. No thank you.
I'm out on Stephon Diggs for sure. The thing about Cooper Kupp that might scare this regime is durability, especially after what he went through last season. And this team has signed nothing but durable guys who have played, over 90% of their games in their careers so far. So I do think that would definitely scare them off. I'd be down for the Moore brothers, Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore. They're not actually brothers, but that'd be an interesting pair of receivers to add to this room and just see who shakes it to the top, come training camp. But anyway,
they're a little similar. You probably only go get one of them if you can play in the. Slot only. Neither can play outside. Is what I mean by similar. Like
Elijah Moore can play outside. Rondale Moore is hardly a receiver. Rondale Moore is like a running back who plays outside. Like, I mean, sorry, but
yeah, you're
anyways.
not wrong about that. I mean, be interested in getting one of those guys, but again, they're going to have to, as I said on today's show earlier, they got to draft an instant contributor at receiver somehow, some way.
Yes, they absolutely need to. So they're going to probably sign one, draft one. Same thing at edge. And Cam Ward, he's got to be the consensus favorite to be the top pick now. I'm serious. I mean, I know I've been banging this drum for a long time, but I'm serious. I think that this is becoming closer and closer to becoming a reality. All right, that'll do it. Thanks everyone for tuning into this emergency podcast. We appreciate you guys 2 times in one day. How lucky are you? How lucky are we? My God, I'm podcasting so much between this and Heed the Call live streams and emergency pods. Like, it's insane. And all I do is sit at my desk and talk about football. It's kind of a fun life. All right, that'll do it. Everyone, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop a comment below. Kevin Zeitler, are the Titans going to the Super Bowl or not because of this signing? Let us know in the comments below. That's a joke. All right, until something else happens or next week when we just need to get back on and talk because it's been too long. Until then, you guys stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.